I'm here with Josh, and Josh, kind of just tell me about what you do and where you kind of where you do your missions.
Absolutely. So I'm an evangelist at heart. I have a ministry called Visible Jesus, and it's based here in Jacksonville, Florida. Our whole mission is that every person, every nation will see Jesus. And we know that the whole world's searching for Jesus. So whether it's through media, through street evangelism, we want people to know, and we want people to see Jesus, fall in love with him, be awestruck by him. And so we go on the streets in Jacksonville. We minister to everybody we can, whoever the Lord brings us to. And we teach prayer and intimacy with Jesus. And we believe that intimacy with Jesus is the forerunner of evangelism. So if we do not have that relationship with Jesus, then our evangelism is almost non-existent. It's in vain for the sense in our life. So not necessarily does the evangelism come back in vain for whoever we're evangelizing to, but for us, if we're not in that relationship, then our evangelism is in vain because there is no relationship. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. You mentioned two avenues that you did. You kind of briefly spoke a little bit on street evangelism. What does that look like? What can it look like here in Jacksonville?
Here in Jacksonville, literally just going out and walking the streets. So picking an area, like I spend a lot of time in Springfield and spend some time in Riverside and a lot of places that you kind of just walk around and enjoy what the Lord's created. And what I do is I'll just walk these areas. I vlog a lot, so it's an easier way to walk in a sense because I can kind of tell a story of what's going on through the day. But as I'm walking, I'm praying and I'm encountering people. So if I walk up to somebody who's maybe sitting at a bus stop or sitting on a bench or walking into a coffee shop like this one and sitting down and just building conversations with everybody that I can, and not in an awkward way of like I'm running up to somebody and I'm like, hey, I got to tell you about Jesus. Let me tell you about Jesus. But just really kind of coming in and kind of almost starting the small talk where it's like, hey, how you doing? How you been? What's going on? And kind of just opening up conversation, finding a common ground. And from there, just either telling them about Jesus, praying for them. Sometimes it's not even always, the conversation doesn't go straight to Jesus, but it's somebody that you're starting to see on a normal basis because you're walking the same areas. So if I'm here in Springfield walking through the neighborhood, I see the same people on their porches weekly. They're sitting on their porch, or I'm seeing the same people in the coffee shop weekly because they come and do schoolwork or they come and do business work. And so it's just building relationship is really the goal of evangelism, to help people trust you as a person and it not just be a shotgun, tactic of, hey, Jesus loves you, see you later, or hey, can I pray with you? Here's a healing, bye, but really kind of bringing in a person to where they feel like there is actually somebody in this world that is interested in my day, and they turn out to be a complete stranger and they mention this man Jesus.
That's awesome, because I think a lot of people, when they hear street evangelists, they think of the people who maybe sitting on a street corner and yelling turn or burn, right, and all this stuff. Yeah. But I mean, you do a lot of when people think of missions, they think of investing in people's lives and giving them things that they need and going deep diving into community. And that's exactly what you're doing.
Yeah, exactly. Evangelism is just another way of missions, so it's like you're not you go on a missions trip, short term, you're spending a week with the people. Long term, you're investing in that community, that city, whatever it is. When you're doing evangelism, a lot of people think of the turn and burn street preachers on the corner with a microphone. They think of itinerant speakers who just go from church to church speaking, and that's not it. It's a type of evangelism, but evangelism is really just investing into everybody that you come in contact with on a day-to-day basis. So it's living that lifestyle of Christianity, that lifestyle of let me invest in whoever I come in contact with. You know, if I come in contact with a person and I talk to them, let me just see how I can invest in their life, whether it be prayer, whether it be finances, giving, helping them with whatever it is. But just showing people that there's people out here that really care, and the motive is because they love each and every person they come in contact with, because they know who Jesus is and they love Jesus.
That's awesome. You also mentioned that that it wasn't just like hitting the streets, but you also have media as well. You mentioned a little bit of your vlogs. What does that kind of look like for you?
I use YouTube as a form of media, and on YouTube I used to vlog a lot on that channel, Visible Jesus, but I use the media for teaching videos, really trying to instill testimonies and like interviews, to where someone has a salvation testimony, they can tell people, share that with people, healing testimonies, many documentaries on what the Lord's doing all over the nation, all over the world, through other ministries, and then little short films. And we believe that it's that easy, because media goes all over the world. Everybody these days, even in third world countries, has a cell phone and has access to the internet. And if they have access to the internet, if the Lord needs them to see a certain testimony, if a certain documentary, a certain short film, he's going to place it on their screen. And so we're using that avenue to say, hey, this is what the Lord's doing. Let's get on board with it, because if it's happening in America or if it's happening in the Philippines, it can happen wherever you're watching, you know.
That's awesome. Yeah. You know, I think especially in this like upcoming generation, media is huge. Yeah. Like social media, Instagram, I mean, YouTube. I mean, how long has YouTube been around? It's probably the biggest it's ever been. I mean, It's probably one of those fads that has never gone away. And so I think that's an amazing ministry that you got going on.
Yeah, and I want there to be 10, 20, 30,000 people just like me. You know, I don't want to be the ministry that's like, hey, YouTube's my ministry, go find your other avenue, this is mine. I would love it to have a generation of people who carry a camera and who video what God's doing and share it with the world, you know, because there's only so many people that I can reach. I've got a certain amount of spherical influence, you know, and I may not be able to reach the people that you can reach, but you can reach the people I can't reach. And if we're doing the same thing, and we understand that it's not a self-promotion thing. That's one of the things I had to get over. I felt like for the first year, I felt like every time I was videoing myself or vlogging, I was promoting myself. And I had to realize I'm not promoting myself. Even though people may think I am, I want to promote Jesus and what he's doing throughout the earth. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So you said you record, you show some of the videos, like some of the stories that you see personally. Right. What's kind of like your craziest story that like you've encountered? So you're going out, you're hitting the streets. What is like the craziest story that you can think of right now? You probably have a couple.
Yeah, there's quite a few. The one that stands out the most would be 2018. I came across a motorcycle accident where the guy and his fiance got hit by a SUV. They were launched across the intersection, and the man was dead, and the fiance was in absolute pain, screaming, rolling around. I was with my wife and my kids at the time, so I pull over and run out, and I lay my hands on this guy. He's not breathing. How he hit, it was just a mess. And I lay my hands on him and I just prayed. And for 2-3 minutes go by, I'm praying, and finally he has this, like, it was the nastiest sound of gargling because he was breathing in and there was just blood everywhere. And he ends up sitting up with the ambulance and everything, and he knows exactly where he's at. He knows his name, and they rush them both to the hospital. The day after, they have emergency surgery. I go and I visit them in the hospital. They have multiple breaks in their back. They have he has stitches all down his face, just a lot of issues. She had, her spine was disconnected from her hip, and broken ankles, punctured lungs, all kinds of stuff. And I see them, and he testifies, he goes, I was being ushered away with so much peace. And he goes, it was different. And he tells me about a story when he was 19 that he had died from a seizure, having a seizure. And he said he was in complete anguish, and the places were different. And after that, he had given his life to the Lord. And he realized that he was in a different area, but he heard praying. And then the Lord said, it's not yet. You're coming back. And that's when he woke up. And so he testified that he was dead and that he rose again from Jesus, healing
That's
him.
awesome.
And after emergency surgeries, broken backs, broken ankles, punctured lungs, they get out of ICU in 3 days into a regular room, which is unheard of. By the 7th day, they were discharged out of the hospital, walking on their own. Everything is going good. He got cleared to go back to be a merchant marine. So it just supernaturally raised from the dead, supernaturally gone out of the hospital in record time. And and now they have a baby, and I keep up with them, and they're doing great. She's writing a book. So it's, just seeing stuff like that, bro, is,
I mean, that's crazy, because I just think of all, like, when people, and I've been caught in this trap too, of like, you go out on the mission field, that's where you're going to see the miracles. You're going to see the miracles in a different country. Right. And you're sitting here going, I mean, just down the street, I saw, God used me to be part of this miracle. Yeah. I think, people need to know that it's not just for the mission field, right?
Right.
It's for the here and now.
Exactly. And America can be your mission field, and that's my main goal. I feel like for the longest time, I wanted to go to the Middle East. I wanted to go to Iraq, Afghanistan. I still believe I'll be in those areas sometime in the future, but the Lord has closed those doors now. I still have the desire in my heart, but for now, those doors are closed, and He's given me such a passion for America, because America is a big melting pot of cultures. You have people from China coming over to learn business, to work, for school, people from the Middle East, people from Africa, people from all over the world. And if we can say, you know what, I'm not able to go to these countries at the moment, but I'll live in my own country, in my own backyard, as if I'm on the mission field in another country. And what happens if you reach that Muslim that's going to UNF, and all of a sudden his life is radically changed by Jesus, and when he goes back home, he knows his culture better than anybody. He or she knows their culture, and all of a sudden now they can start something in their city. Same thing with China. What if someone comes here, and next thing you know, they go back and they're radically changed, and they start another underground church movement, and then revival is breaking out. It's just, we have the opportunity to reach the world just in our backyard, because the world comes to America. And I love the fact that I get to call America my mission field, because I don't have to go anywhere but other than my backyard, And do I want to go to other places? Absolutely. I love traveling. I love seeing new parts of the world. I just got back from the Dominican Republic, and it's beautiful. But if we can teach people how to evangelize here, then it's going to set them up for a life here, And the way you learn to evangelize in Africa is completely different than America. You can go to Africa on your first missions trip, and you can learn how to talk to the African people in Kenya and Nigeria. And then when you get here, you're like, well, the cultures are so different. I want to go back to Kenya so I can go and talk to people about Jesus. But if we can raise up a culture, a people, a group, a remnant here that can evangelize and understand the post-Christianity culture, everybody you talk to in America, for the most part, has heard the name of Jesus. So if you can reach people here who've already heard the name, show them the power and love of Jesus here, then it's going to create this influence, and it's going to create this revival that we all pray for in America. And when America grabs a hold of the awakening of Jesus Christ, the world follows. The world follows already America's fashion culture, music culture, business culture. We set the standard in the world and everything. So if we can break out into a evangelistic, Jesus-loving culture, other nations will follow.
That's awesome. Just when you kept talking, just remind me of, when people were sent out, the Bible just talking about reach your Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and the ends of the earth. Yeah. It's like, what's mentioned first is that city. Yeah. It's a city, not a country, but a city. And so, reaching, both being in local ministry, reaching our city, yeah, and it just having it expand from there. That's awesome. What is your favorite story when you've gone out on the streets? What is your favorite story that you get to tell people about somebody just this realization of Jesus?
Usually, so when we read the word, we understand that in the scriptures it says when you preach the gospel, then power will follow. So I see that anytime that there is the power of God, the truth of God follows. Or when the truth of God is preached, the power follows. And so for me, being able to talk with people, build relationship, and either pray with them and they receive a healing, something happens, this revelation comes, they're like, I don't even understand how this has happened. And then you get to show them, well, this is why this has happened. Here's the gospel. And they receive the Lord. And you get to plug them into a local church, So I think those are my favorite stories. I could either raise 10 dead people from the dead, or I could see somebody have the light go off and salvation come to them, and they understand this life is beautiful and I want more of it. And I would choose salvation every single day, because ultimately that's the greatest miracle. That is the death to life story on an eternal level, because you can raise somebody from the dead, and 2 years later, if you have not given them Jesus, then they just have a cool story that, I was dead once and this guy prayed over me, now I'm alive, but I'm still living my same life because nobody invested time and invested Jesus into my life. But the times on the street where people say, I found Jesus, thank you so much for taking the time and starting to build those relationships. Those are my favorite.
That real, that on switch of just realization of oh my gosh, this is real.
Absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's, I'd rather see that than anything else.
Yeah. I mean, that's why we do Youthquake, is because we want to see, when somebody comes up and you can see on their face that their life has been changed. Yeah. And there's no other feeling in the world.
Right.
And so, we want, part of why, I wanted to sit down and talk was because we want to inspire, other people to do the same. Yeah. We want to preach the gospel. We want to invest in people, get people plugged in, not just a, bam, be healed type thing like you were talking about and see it on your way. Yeah. And so for a teenager today, what are some practical things that they can start doing to reaching people in their schools or reaching people in their neighborhoods?
The number one thing would be to spend time in the secret place alone with Jesus. And from there, everything flows. So if they can discipline themselves to spend an hour in the morning just in prayer, just in the Word, not asking God for anything, not asking the Lord to change their situation, not petitioning, but to sit and just say, Jesus, I love you, and just learn to listen to Him. In this place, they will develop the compassion to, when they see somebody in their school, to help. When they know that somebody's going through something in their school, to step in and say, I may not be able to help you in this way, but I can tell you about Jesus because I believe he will help you in this way. From the secret place, we get boldness, we get compassion, we understand the character of God. And it's in prayer when we find these things that it makes it easy and practical to talk to people. So after that, just really starting with your friends, and being set apart, knowing that you're set apart because of Christ, and just really starting with your friends. Because I know high school's tough, and it's really easy to be like, you know what, that Jesus thing is going to make me sit alone at the lunch table. I don't want to sit alone at the lunch table, but really just living that life in the sense of no compromise, knowing what's right and wrong as a teenager, knowing that when certain jokes are being told, standing in integrity and saying, you know what, I don't think that joke's funny, and living. If I could go back to high school, knowing what I know now, I would live in such a way, and I would walk in the school in such a way that if people are around me, they wouldn't want to tell those jokes. They wouldn't want to talk about certain things. So they're gonna be like, me telling him that joke makes me feel convicted. If I could walk in high school with the amount of conviction and integrity in the Lord, to where people were like, this guy, even though he's 16, there's something about him. I would, but that only comes from the secret place. We can want to do it all that we want to do it, and it'll never work because if we're doing it on our own strength, we can't possibly carry that weight. But if we're in the secret place with the Lord in prayer, in his word, listening to him, experiencing him, it makes this life so much easier, even in high school, even in your workplace. For me, it was the workplace that was always tough. And now I see how easy it is. It's just, before I went full-time ministry, my workplace was always coming up to me. They were asking me questions because of the integrity that I walked in. They knew they wouldn't talk about certain things around me because they respected who I was as a person. Not because that I was a Christian, but because that, one, they did know I was a Christian, but my work ethic was above and beyond. I would always go work in excellence. So for teenagers in school, they should be in school and be excellent at everything they do. If their teachers are asking them to act a certain way, they should be the teacher's pet, and not because that's going to get them good brownie points with the teacher, but because that's what Jesus would expect. That's how he expects us to act, to respect others, to, even if it's cleaning out some dirty spot that's in the hallway that has trash. If people start seeing you actually caring, they're going to understand there's something different, And I hope that makes sense. I hope that answers the question well.
I think it does. I think you can't do ministry without spending time with God, because that ministry is going to be an overflow of what he's doing in your own life. And I think one of the things I want to highlight what you said is like, out of that secret place, out of that prayer, boldness comes. Yeah. I can't remember what chapter in Acts it is, but it talks about how this group of people were praying, and then they went out and proclaimed the gospel like boldly. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what's missing, is that everybody wants, I want the boldness, and then doesn't go to the secret place. So they're not able to do that. Right. So, I mean, that's what it, so here's, I think this is going to be like the last questions, because, I think there's a lot of Christians are going to be watching this, and they're like, yeah, I know I need to go to the secret place. But, when I go and talk to, somebody, who really knows God, it just looks like this whole big thing that I've got to know. Where did you kind of start when you started spending time with God, so that they understand that you don't have to spend an hour and a half and kneeling and with your hands up and all this stuff.
Yeah, it's just start with like 10 minutes, if you dedicate a certain amount of time with the Lord, he's going to meet you, and then the more you spend time with him, the more you're going to say, I'd like to spend a little more than 10 minutes. I'd like to spend a little more than 20 minutes, you know? But it's really just dedicating that time to be with the Lord and not comparing yourself to others who may spend 3 hours a day in prayer, or who may be reading their Bible every single second they get. You know, because when we start to compare ourselves, we really start to lose the joy that we had in what we're doing. And we start to think, oh, well, so-and-so's, he's doing this more than I am, so what's the point in me even doing it now? And so really to start, our Christianity, our relationship with Jesus shouldn't involve anybody else but me and Jesus. You know, once we involve anybody else into that relationship, then that leaves room for comparison to say, oh, well, so-and-so's not doing it, so I don't have to do it. Or, you know, John's doing this, so now I have to do it and make sure, because what that's going to do is going to put you in a performance-based relationship that says, I have to do this in order for Jesus to love me. And if we just understand that Jesus wants whatever time that you'll give him, he loves it. He'll enjoy it. He'll meet you there. He'll meet you if it's just 5 minutes and a bathroom break between classes. He'll meet you there. You know, it's just giving him that time. And it's that easy. You know, we like to put this big, like, grandeur scheme, like, this is what I have to do in order for the Lord to show up. I have to open my Bible, I have to put on this music, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to get my lucky pillow, you know, I have to do these things for the Lord to show up. And he's like, just sit anywhere and call my name and say, Jesus, I'd really love to spend some time with you right now. And tell him how much you love him, you know. And it starts just that easy. I start all my prayers when I go into my prayer closet with, Jesus, I can't even hear you without you giving me the strength to hear you. Please let me hear you, you know. And it's that easy. And just, it's adoration. It's loving him. And as much as, you know, you love anything else kind of thing, how you cheer at your football game because you love the football team, how you're like, oh, we're the best, this is that, you know, it's, you go into your prayer room and it's, Jesus, you're the best. I really would love to spend some time with you. And it just ushers in everything, and it makes it easy. And then you start with 5 minutes, and the next thing you know, you're 5 hours, you know, and you start to really develop a hunger for the Word. You develop a hunger for more of him, and you really start developing a character that you start walking into because you've been with him. You know, it's not a behavior gospel. Like, hey, if you want to see me, you must behave. No, it's if you want to see me, behold me. You know.
That's good. I'm not so sure about the football reference, since we're both wearing Jags gear and we've only won one game. But no, I think it's just like any winning sports team. You continue to cheer on, and I think, you know, I'm comparing it to sports, comparing it to Jaguars fans, that all these people in Jacksonville are so passionate about the Jaguars, and they invest so much time into the Jaguars because they love them. And it's like, you know, do we love God just as much that we're willing to get riled up about it? You know, when things aren't going, you know, the way that God has intended, are we willing to get riled up about it and take action and be bold? I think that's awesome. And we're sitting in this place where someone got riled up about it.
Right.
Is that, you know, we're sitting in, you know, can you describe what Social Grounds is?
Yeah, Social Grounds is a coffee shop here in Jacksonville, the Springfield area. Jason Kellaway owns it. And the sole purpose of Social Grounds is they help veterans come out of their transition. So homeless veterans who have nothing, veterans who are just struggling, their really main focus is to help them and empower them, but not just veterans, but people in general. So Jason has a ministry called Cup of Love, and it's specifically for downtown neighbors, which is our homeless community. And every week, every Wednesday morning, they go out, they bring coffee, they bring food, clothing, and they develop a relationship with our downtown neighbors, and they love it. And so through this relationship, they've seen people transition out of homelessness. They've seen baptisms. You know, they've met people who are homeless on the streets that are so on fire for God, and they choose the streets as their mission field. You know, there's a guy here in town named Zoar, and he is one of the most incredible people that I've met. And he says, I count it a blessing to not have a home. You know, and he says, I get to minister to all these people who don't have a home, and I'm one of them. So they listen, and it's beautiful. And then on Saturdays, the last Saturdays of the month, they have a big one. They're seeing 150, 200 homeless people a week and really pouring into them. And that's it. You know, they're loving on everybody, and they're seeing healthy change. They're seeing healthy relationship. They're discipling people that, you know, unfortunately there's some churches that won't allow them even into the congregation, you know, and there's a lot of them that have been hurt by the church. And so there's a lot of restoration happening too. So they're incredible people. All of the proceeds from the coffee shop goes into the ministry to help the city of Jacksonville, and they're awesome.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's so cool. So just kind of wrapping it up is like, can you tell us your YouTube? Because, you know, once again, media, you know, people are always looking for something that breathes life. Right. And you're not going to find it watching Mr. Beast give away money. Right. It might be fun to watch, see how much money he can throw at somebody. You're not going to find it when, you know, those types of things. Right. And then also, you know, if somebody wants to get involved in social grounds, you know, what is their first step? Gotcha.
Yeah. So my YouTube channel is Visible Jesus. It should be the first thing that pops up. So like I said, you'll find testimonies, vlogs, anything that's going to help you hunger for Jesus more. It's going to teach you to walk with Jesus in a deeper, intimate level. So just go and subscribe. And to get involved with Social Grounds, Cup of Love, you can go to cupofloveministries.org, I believe. I'll get you the right link if you're wanting to put it anywhere. And they're always looking for churches to volunteer. On Wednesdays, on Saturdays, they're looking for anybody that would just want to come, and if they feel like they have a passion to just reach people, it's a fantastic morning to just spend time with people who want people. That's all they want, is to spend time with people. Every homeless person that I've talked to, if I ask them, what's your favorite part of the day? And they would always tell me, this is my favorite part of the day, when somebody just comes to talk to me. You know, they don't have to give me anything. They're not always looking for anything. They're just looking for someone to sit and talk with, you know. So, yeah, Cup of Love Ministries. You can find them on Facebook too. So, and then message Jason and tell him, I want to get involved.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for sitting down and talking with me.
Absolutely, man.
You know, we're gonna have to get together and do a little something.
Absolutely.
For, you know, for the teenagers, and so I'm excited about it.
Absolutely, man. It's going to be a blast.
Yes. Awesome.